Man, there is something just so magical about Black Flag. I don't even really know how to describe it, but every time I boot up the game, I just get this ooey, gooey feeling. That was disgusting. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, take two. I love Black Flag. It's a good game with lots of fun to be having. And today, we're gonna go back and try the game again now that Ubisoft has patched it and see if it is as good as we remember. Also, we're going to discuss the remake that Ubisoft is working on. And thirdly, I'm going to offer some of my thoughts as to what I think a modern Black Flag game could benefit from, so that I'm not just sitting here whining and complaining about a bunch of stuff. I'm actually offering constructive criticism. Wouldn't that be refreshing? And yes, you heard that right. Ubisoft did in fact fix the game. It is patched on PC now, so it's not locked in windowed mode or anything like that. You can play it to your heart's content in full screen again. It still doesn't really support frame rates above 60, but it frankly never has, which is something we're going to discuss. But you know what? It works. The graphical glitches seem to be gone, and it is running okay, which, you know what? I'll take it. I mean, just to put it in perspective, I'm playing with a 4090 and I'm locked at 60 frames. I don't have VSync on, I don't have any of that stuff on, and this thing caps out at 60 frames. So there's just nothing you can really do. All told, it's not that big of a deal. This is, after all, a third-person adventure game. You don't need crazy high frame rates. It would be great if they supported higher frame rates, especially if you can manage to run it. But whatever, I'm trying to be more positive in this, the mighty month of August. So I'm just gonna let that roll right off my back and not whine about it. But man, one of the things I forgot about with Black Flag is just how gorgeous the water and the sea is while you're exploring. Like, I'm not even doing anything right now. We haven't even really started the video, and already I'm just pausing to take in the sights and the scenes, and then you see like the man o' wars over there, and it's just gorgeous. And there's something deep down and like guttural in me that just loves the ocean and loves the idea of sailing freely without any restrictions or anything, and then looking off in the distance and seeing those monstrosities and thinking, should I take them on? Could I do it? Am I tough enough? Inevitably realizing I'm not, and then moving on and finding something that I actually can take on. But like, look at this water for a game that's 10 years old. That's not bad, really. I mean, come on, dude. Oh, you see what I was talking about with like finding smaller guys that we can take on? This I think we can manage that one. Before anybody says anything about like being noble and stuff, I'm a freaking pirate. Like, lay off me, dude. If I want to beat up on a little level 1 frigate, I can do that. I'm a big boy now. Should we just melt him with the mortar? Let's do it. Whoosh. And he's gone. Sorry, not sorry. But you know what? We've seen this kind of thing before. I want to go back and see what the game is like from the very tippy top. So let's boot up a fresh save and see how they start the game out. See how all of this gets going. But first, of course, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Vitcher. If I told you guys that a pair of glasses just like these could be used to give yourself pretty much a 120-inch screen to play games on or watch TV no matter where you are or what you're doing, I personally probably wouldn't have believed you until I tried these things. They've blown my mind. It's magic. When you put on the lightweight glasses, you're going to be greeted with a 1080p 60 FPS screen that is as vivid as it is shockingly bright. They actually work by projecting the image down onto lenses that sit right in front of your eyes, so you can still see what you're doing, but you now get a massive screen in your field of view. Again, there's no other way to describe it than it's magic. I was actually recently on a flight going to visit some family in Minnesota, so it was like an hour and a half, 2-hour flight, and I used these things to play on my Nintendo Switch using their adapter and switch holder on the plane. So I was sitting in a very crammed plane seat with a 120-inch screen effectively in front of me. It was game-changing. Like, I cannot describe enough how cool this is. Following in that vein, they have a bunch of little attachments and accessories, such as this little necklace thing here, which has a built-in little battery bank so it stays charged. And this thing just gently unfolds and then sits around your neck. And the neckband actually has an Android-based system installed, meaning that you can install different apps, watch videos off of YouTube or Plex, or any of the other apps that you could get supported through Android. In addition, Vitcher is an official partner of PS Play and XBX Play, which are available for free to owners of the Vitcher 1 neckband. This means that you can stream console gameplay right to your glasses. Or if you have a gaming PC, you can use the Moonlight app in the neckband to actually stream your PC games to the glasses as well. And as I mentioned before, the portable dock, which also doubles as a battery bank for whatever device is plugged into it, allows you to put in either your Nintendo Switch or your Steam Deck and output to 1 or 2 glasses at the same time. So again, if you're on a flight with somebody and you want to share an experience with them, you can. Like, these things are so cool. I don't get this like giddy or excited for tech normally, but that's because a lot of the time it doesn't feel truly magical. It's just, oh, a new screen that's a little bigger, or the speakers are a little better. But these things are actually a game changer. They are truly groundbreaking, and I cannot get enough of them. Again, these things are just so flippin' cool. I can't recommend them enough. I have had a jolly old time with them, and everybody I've let try them has also been blown away. They are just, I mean, I'm speechless. They are really that cool. So check them out today. The link in the video description box below. If you want to save 10%, make sure to use my promo code, which I'll also have down there. Once you've done that, you know, you can like join the future. Get on the train. It's pretty cool. All right, back to the video. Shout out to Vitcher. Those glasses are freaking amazing. I can't get enough of them. I started up a new save, and as you can see, it starts out pretty intense. I had frankly forgotten about this introduction. It's been a little bit since I played the game, and frankly, every time I go back to the game, I always remember sailing around, living life as a pirate. I don't really remember a lot of the opening hours personally, even though there's a lot of really cool stuff that goes on here. You can see right away they show you the assassin that's on the other ship. They also get right to the point and show you how the ship combat works. It's the very first thing you do in the game right after you literally learn how to walk. And then after that, we slowly get introduced to the world, to the characters, to Kenway himself. And frankly, I appreciate how intense this introductory section is. I think the only other game that has an introduction that is this like crazy right to the point would probably be AC Odyssey, and maybe even AC Origins. I think they did that as well, but a little bit slower. It takes maybe 20-30 minutes to really get going. But Odyssey, man, you come out as Leonidas and things just get mad crazy so quick. So we get blown into the water from the ship, and then we sink slowly down, as you do when you are in water and you can't swim very well like me. We get to look at some Xbox 360 romance scenes, which are always just a delight. And this is also when we get introduced to Kenway himself. And I actually think him as a character is much more interesting than many of the characters we've gotten in the last 10-15 years of Assassin's Creed games, frankly, because it works so perfectly with the setting. Kenway wants to be successful both for him and then also for Caroline, and like he wants to be a great person at the same time, but he feels like he can't actually achieve anything great. And then he finds that in the pursuit of being a pirate, but also in helping the Brotherhood. It just works really, really well. And there aren't that many examples of characters in the Assassin's Creed franchise that are written really well for the setting in which they are placed. And I also just freaking love the setting of pirates. I'm gonna be real with you, so I'm a little biased. Like, there are some other characters in AC that I think work really well for their settings. Like Bayek, I think in Origins works really, really well as a Magi. I think he comes off as very noble and very proud and sophisticated in a lot of ways. But a lot of other characters for the franchise I just find really bland, like Ivor, super bland. I thought the Fry siblings were interesting in Syndicate, but I didn't think they really worked super well as characters set within that time period. It seemed more like they were just quirky brother and sister combo that happened to be set in that time period, but you get what I'm saying.
No, I don't, Luke. What the hell are you talking about? You're not making any sense.
Whatever. If you haven't figured it out already, most of my videos are me rambling nonsensically. I'm honestly amazed that people find it entertaining, but you know what? I'm here for it. I'm very thankful you're watching. I'm gonna be honest also, I am super biased towards the pirate setting. I just freaking love it. I've talked a lot before about my dream games, what I would like to see most in the industry that we haven't seen. And one of my bucket list games, if I was given a check for $100 million and I could go direct a game myself, I would want to make a hyper-realistic, grounded, linear narrative game set in the golden age of piracy where you play as Anne Bonny. We're talking Sony Santa Monica / Naughty Dog levels of production value is what I would, of course, prefer to get, although I will grant you that might be a little outside of reach for a first game. But hey, if we're talking about bucket list games, we're assuming that we can do things that are unreasonable, right? But I don't know. Let me know what you guys would like to see as like a bucket list game, because that's one of them for me. I also think there's a real opportunity to reboot the Order 1886. Okay, well, that's not what I meant to do. Shocker, Assassin's Creed controls don't cooperate super well. That's novel. But what I was saying is that I think there's a real opportunity to reboot the Order 1886 franchise as well, because I think there's a ton of potential there. But maybe I'm just a dreamer. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think an awesome game would be that we have not seen yet. Or I guess it could be a game that already exists, but you think could get a reboot or a refresh in the modern day that could do it justice. And man, right off the bat, we are free running. We are sailing pirate ships. We are fighting. We're talking to characters. We're getting a look at pretty expansive maps and areas. I mean, Black Flag doesn't beat around the bush. They're just like, yeah, you're here to be a pirate. You're here to have fun. Here you go. Check it out. Have a good time. Also, speaking of playing and getting right to the point, right now Ubisoft is actually doing a free weekend for Assassin's Creed where you can play like Black Flag, Valhalla, Brotherhood, Revelations, Assassin's Creed 2, all for free through the Uplay launcher. So if you want to do that and you're watching this video within a couple days of it going up, then like go try one of those games. If you're looking at Black Flag and you're going, oh, that looks like it could be fun to jump into again, but I don't own a copy, play it for free. Why not? Ubisoft didn't pay me to promote that. Maybe I should have asked them to give me money to promote that, but hey, I just think it's cool to be able to play games for free. Even if it's only for like 4 days, you can probably finish this within 4 days. I believe in you. You can do it. Now, one thing you'll probably notice right off the rip is that Black Flag is an older game. Like I said, it's a decade old at this point when this video is being made and put up. And so it has some limitations. This is not like a modern Ubisoft or AAA game where they can just throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it to make ridiculously huge maps with endless content for you to enjoy or suffer through, depending on how you feel about it. And so if we pull up in the map of what we've currently discovered 5 to 10 minutes into the game, you can see that all of this is explorable, these little sections, but all this extra map area, all of this greenery, you can't go to. All of that is off limits. That's not accessible. This isn't accessible or anything. And so it may seem as though, wow, look at all these hills and mountains and the islands are so vast. Yes, they look great, but you can't actually go to them. You can't go to that mountain and climb it, in the words of Todd Howard, no matter how much detail there is.
16 times the detail.
There isn't that much detail, Todd. Shut up. But baby, there's detail to these jumps. Ooh, baby, look at that splash. That dude just shot me. That dude shot me. He shot me with a gun. The gall. But man, when we discuss scope, that is one thing normally Ubisoft is not limited by whatsoever. And so to see a game that is only held back by the technology of the time, because frankly, they couldn't make maps that big, even if they wanted to back in 2013, 2014. So to see this, which was a AAA level game at the time, it really makes me wonder what a Black Flag produced from the ground up for modern consoles, for modern hardware, what that would look like. And I think it would be amazing. And look at this. We have stealth sections in an Assassin's Creed game. Who's responsible for this? Someone tell Yves Guillemot and his brothers. They won't let this stand. Dude, don't... You just... Okay, he might have tripped on me. I'm sorry. Seriously, though, it's really funny to me that these stealth sections are seen as, like, really novel nowadays because Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or I'm sorry, it's actually...
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
That game just totally bastardized the entire idea of a stealth-focused Assassin's Creed game. So to see this now is very refreshing, even if it's a decade old. Oh man, and this combat system, this is the old style of combat system that Assassin's Creed used, and it's a paired animation system, which basically just means that I have an animation that plays out for an attack and it pairs to the animation of the enemy up so you can have cool finishers like this, but it's not actually about like getting timings perfect. It's not actually about like getting spacing right so that your weapon hits within the hitbox. It's all just about the rock, paper, scissors of combat. I attacked when you were blocking, so you block it. Oh, I broke your cover or your guard while you were guarding, and so then it breaks it, then I can attack you. It's not actually about any sort of extreme nuance, which is why they moved on from this combat system, because frankly, it's just... It's probably best left in the past. I was also talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and he was like, I just can't play Assassin's Creed games because they're not very historically accurate. I'm like, okay, well, for one, shocker. Two, of course they're not. Like, can you imagine if it was like historically accurate or grounded in that you were wearing this massive coat and outfit and then tried to swim in the open ocean with it? Like, I would drown within 30 seconds of wearing this thing in the ocean. That's nothing but cotton. Dude, that sucks up the water so good. You are never getting back out of that water once you go in. You're done. You know, as we go through these opening sections of Black Flag, I have to say that I'm a little... It's a conflicting emotion. Like, I'm really happy to see this game running well now, and I'm glad to be back in it. But I'm also sort of bummed or almost bitter that we haven't seen this tech used or this format used for other games, whether they be Assassin's Creed or not. Of course, we have Skull and Bones, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to, but Ubisoft just hasn't touched this ever since they did Black Flag, which is such a shame because I think Black Flag really showcased how this type of game has an audience. People want this type of game, and they speak very highly of Black Flag even to this day. It's just bizarre that they can't seem to get their foot out of their mouth and their head out of their ass. They're all sorts of tangled up to get Skull and Bones out the door. And even when that comes out the door, I'm not so sure that that's going to do too well. Oh, look at that. Oh, beautiful. This is gorgeous. I love those dynamic events. They're awesome. Also, for everybody out there who is wondering about Skull and Bones, it apparently is still coming. It might get delayed again, which would be really funny, but I have spoken to a handful of people that have been participating in the play tests over the course of the last year and a half or so, and those people seem to have generally pretty positive opinions of the game, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot when you're trying to appeal to all of gaming. If like a small subset of people that care about it so much that they even went out and specifically asked to participate in play tests if they like it, you would expect them to, frankly, but I don't know. The whole Skull and Bones thing is just fascinating to me. What's not so fascinating to me are these modern day sections that Ubisoft used to do a ton. They sort of went into this weird mode back from like 2011 through 20. I think they did it in Syndicate as well. They did it for a handful of years where they pretended like Abstergo was basically Ubisoft and that you were the player, but you were actually participating in this in real life as well. It's just very confusing. Like they tried to get all meta on us and be like, oh, Ubisoft is Abstergo. Oh, wait, but they're a terrible corporate overlord. Maybe they shouldn't be given control and power on all of this. And it's like, okay, well, what are we doing, dude? Like, what's the point of all of this? I wanted to play as a pirate. Let me play as a pirate. Like, let's just do that. I don't know. This is one thing where I need your honest feedback. I look at Assassin's Creed games and I tend to like them specifically for the open world adventure stuff in historical settings. So I'm not that into the modern day elements of it beyond like cool Easter eggs and everything. I always find these moments to be kind of the letdown of the game, it's always like a bit of a trudge to get through them, but I don't know, maybe I'm alone in that. I guess let me know your thoughts. I also think this was a cool way of them showcasing some of the like concept art that they made for the game. It's like really clever when you think about it. We did all of this crazy artwork for like making the streets look a certain way, and then look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. I wish we would have gotten that in the final game. But man, they usually don't get to capitalize on the artwork they spend so much time and effort doing beyond just building levels and stuff. And so to see it actually showcased here is super cool. Oh yeah, dude, I forgot about this. They give you a communicator, which is like a weird iPad back in like 2013 when everybody was trying to like imagine the future with just big tablets. It was really, really weird. Oh my God, you walk so slowly. Come on. There we go. Come on. Okay. I got work to do. This is random, but like we have a refrigerator upstairs that's relatively new. We got it secondhand, but it's nice. And it connects to the Wi-Fi of the house and will email you when it needs like filters replaced and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. So if you need a water filter replaced for the water dispenser, it just emails you and then you know that you need to do that. I thought it was cool. But my wife, Nikki, looked at me like I was an actual crazy person when I told her I had to go connect the fridge to the Wi-Fi. But I mean, it's cool. I don't know. I know it's like a very first world thing, very kitschy, and I'm very entitled and spoiled. I mean, I'm a YouTuber. What did you expect? But I think it's cool. Like, why not connect your fridge to Wi-Fi if it can do that? Yes, I love playing video games and getting to go to the office where I have a weird modern cubicle. I've like looked at videos to see if the studio that made Black Flag, if they actually have offices that look like this, and they don't. So before anybody else checks, they just have like a normal office. It's not this fancy. Dude, this little cubicle's nicer than my studio. Jesus.
So you'll have no problems. And I'll check in on you later.
Oh, and there's a QR code. I'm scanning the QR code. You better believe it. Hold on. Where is it? There. Hold on. I'm gonna grab my phone. Let's scan it. Oh wait, secret note. No, it is working. Oh God. Okay, that's kind of fun. It just allows you to Google the term secret note. That's all the QR code is, but still, I think that's kind of fun. It's an actual QR code. And so here we are in Havana, Cuba. It's not as epic as in the artwork we saw just a few minutes ago. So it's not like we got that shot for shot, line for line or anything, but what we have here, especially for 2013, 2014-ish, is pretty good. It's pretty elaborate. Let me show you. You see, we get to walk through Havana very slowly, following behind Stid. Ugh. These trailing missions are probably the most annoying thing about this game, because they are everywhere. It's the one thing that actually makes me hesitate when Ubisoft says like, oh, for Mirage, we're going back in time. We're gonna lean back into our roots. I'm like, okay, do that, but don't lean too heavy into the roots, because your roots are very much focused on trailing missions, which were super, super common for the first like 10 years of the Assassin's Creed franchise. And then they shook them a lot more with like Unity had some, but a lot less than Black Flag and Rogue, for example. Syndicate still had a few, and then Origins pretty much got rid of them. And by the time we got to Valhalla, I mean, it wasn't a thing anymore, which I think is good. What they traded them for maybe could have been improved a little bit, but frankly, I think anything is better than this, because these trailing missions get a little annoying. This one isn't that bad because we are just walking through the city, so it makes sense that we're just following him as he shows us around. But later in the game, you'll be tasked with staying within like 30 meters of an enemy subject, and you just have to like keep line of sight to them while also following away. It's just not very good. But even going through this with this free running system, it feels more nuanced. Maybe this is just like my bias speaking, but it feels better and more sophisticated in terms of movesets and animations than Valhalla does, or than even Odyssey to a large extent. Like just the way he shuffles up, the animations when he's swapping between going up and down, it just feels more varied. And again, that might just be my bias, so I'm gonna be real. I tend to prefer the feeling of free running when we still had the ability to climb up or climb down depending on whether we held down the right trigger and pressed A versus B. But still, it just feels good, man. It feels good. And this is one of those moments where I want to defend myself a little bit, because I said that Assassin's Creed Valhalla really struggles to feel like an Assassin's Creed game because the free running is so lackluster because of the setting. There's just not many big interesting buildings to climb up or explore in England at that time. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to have big buildings because there weren't any. So yes, it's more historically accurate than if they had huge cities for you to explore, but it's not my fault that they chose to set an Assassin's Creed game in a setting where there's nothing to climb or nothing to explore. And even this game, which is all about being a pirate sailing the seven seas, we still have more nuanced free climbing and free running than we had in those other games, which are more modern. And the cities, while they are certainly small and pretty blocky, there's not a lot of really interesting architecture here except for the larger buildings. It still is very, very serviceable. I still feel like you can explore this and make use of your free climbing without having to try too very hard. You know, I just, man, I really hope that with these future Assassin's Creed games we get, they start to lean into the cities again and the free climbing more. Because back in the day, man, it just felt so good to just explore cities and the nooks and crannies therein by way of free running. It just, man, it felt great. Oh yeah, dude, and these missions where we chase down pickpockets. Oh, this is such a throwback. You remember in Assassin's Creed 2, all of the times you'd see like a robber go and jump some lady, and it was always funny because all the robbers in the entire city, no matter where you were in the game's map, they always were wearing the exact same clothing. Every single time. So you can see him walking up and you're like, you're about to rob that lady. And then they rob them and it's like, oh, well, you're wearing the same outfit. Shocker. Okay. Problem solved. Problem solved. Loot them. And then we can pick up the body. There we go. Like a baby. Don't worry. I don't carry my babies like this. I don't take little Orion and just throw him over my shoulder. That would be bad. The AI is not great. I'll give them that. I just dumped a dead body on top of those guys. And they're just staring at him. Like, oh, that's weird. At least that guy on the street's a little weirded out. Oh, no wonder. They are like the same exact face model. So they're like inbred brothers. I bet they don't even know where they are. Poor things. But man, this is what a lot of Assassin's Creed Black Flag is about. It's about exploring these naval cities and encampments and bases, and then working with the really eclectic group of secondary characters as you work your way through the main story and upgrade your ship, upgrade Edward's kit up and abilities. And by the time you get later in the game, frankly, you start to feel like a superpowered pirate in a really significant way. But here we are back at our later save when we've got a ship that's a lot more upgraded. We've got a crew, we've got friends and family. The story has stakes now. And this is where Black Flag really is at its best. Also the shanties. You remember the shanties? Like, just take it in. I just forgot for a brief moment that we were filming a video. I just kind of got distracted. Let the sea shanties take me. But man, it hits different, dude. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent just exploring the ocean, listening to the shanties, ramming into ships, wreaking havoc. Man, this is a throwback. Oh, and then seamless boarding of the ships too. Dude, this was ahead of its time. There are other pirate games that have come since this one that still don't feature seamless boarding, which is just amazing to me because Black Flag made it look so easy. We were just sailing around and now we boarded, or we could have boarded, but I blew them up with a little hand cannon thing before that. But still, they made it look so easy. Now, having said all this stuff, I want to discuss the remake rumors and speculation that has recently found its way into the public discourse because frankly, I'm very excited for a potential remake, and it seems to be more and more likely as time goes by. There were some leaks that dropped recently about a remake of Black Flag. By all reports, it seems to be very, very early on in development. We're still probably not getting it for probably 3+ years, but still, I'm very excited to see what a remake of Black Flag could look like with modern tech. I, though, am curious as to what exactly that looks like. Does that look like a sort of Black Flag, but just with upgraded graphics a little bit, nothing else changed? Or does that look more like a revamped version of this game that has modern tech enabling seamless like city to ocean transitions where you don't need to do anything crazy like big load screens as you have now? You know, how much of a remake is this really going to be? Is it going to be The Last of Us Part 1, or is it going to be just the Red Dead thing where it's just coming to PS4 and the Switch for some reason? Like, what does it actually mean for it to get a remake? We just frankly don't know right now. Also, that storm came out of absolutely nowhere. I'm going to frantically get back to my ship because in Black Flag, there are what are known as rogue waves, which is a thing in real life as well. If you just never want to sleep at night again, just Google or look up on YouTube or TikTok, rogue waves. It'll blow your mind. Like every once in a while, the waves just line up in a certain formation where all hell breaks loose and you can have basically a tsunami in the middle of the ocean. It's a little terrifying. So it might seem like it's just a video game mechanic here. It's not. It's real.
Shut the fuck up. That's fucking awesome.
But anyway, just to calm you down a little bit from getting too hyped about the Black Flag remake, it's important to understand that according to a lot of the leaks that we've gotten, it seems as though they're going to have the team, or at least part of the team that's currently working on Skull and Bones, working on the remake. So who knows if we'll ever actually see this remake. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it would just print money. I know for myself, if it's a decent remake that actually takes Black Flag and cranks it to the max for a modern audience and for modern hardware, I would buy that in an instant. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. We've been burned plenty of times before, right? So we should be cautiously optimistic, not pessimistic, but cautiously optimistic and hope that they pull it off. Oh, and dude, this is a spot to go shark hunting. Oh man, I remember when I was hunting for like the 100% completionist trophies. I think it was on Xbox, so I guess it would have been trophy hunting. It wasn't trying to get the platinum. But I remember when I was doing that, I was trying to finish all of these hunting missions. And so I spent like 2 days in a row during summer break in high school just grinding these things out. It's like all I did for 2 days straight. And man, it was awesome. I blew it. Okay, it's been a while. I'm out of practice, boys and girls. I wonder if people would throw a fit about this being in a game today. Do you think they would? Do you think they'd throw a fit? They'd be like, oh, they're celebrating animal cruelty. When I'm like, I mean, you eat sushi, person who's complaining about this. It's always, you know, the people that complain about this stuff, they're always the types to eat sushi. Have you noticed that? It's like you might not eat shark, but you're eating eel and octopus. Octopuses are way smarter than a shark is. Like, did you watch The Octopus Teacher, that documentary? I mean, dude, that's made me like rethink my entire life. That one documentary on a like little octopus in the middle of, I don't remember where they were, but dude, if you haven't seen the documentary, dude, go watch it. It's My Octopus Teacher, I think is what it's called. Jacob put up a poster of it. Really good. Who would have thought that you could have like a really entertaining documentary about just a random octopus that some dude found? But man, it like tugs at the heartstrings too. But to transition a little bit, what would Luke do differently if I were to make this game in the modern day? Well, personally, that's sort of a nuanced question because, of course, looking at Black Flag, there's a lot of things I really like about the game, but there are some things I would change. setting aside the obvious ones. I mean, of course, nowadays we'd say, oh, well, I would like better graphics, or, ooh, I would like no loading screens between cities and ports and the open ocean, which nowadays is just standard practice. But back when this game came out, that simply wasn't possible. So if we set all of that stuff aside and we just look at what could we change mechanistically about Black Flag to make it run better or be more interesting, I have a couple of ideas. For one, I think it's really important to establish whether or not this is supposed to be a narrative game or if it's supposed to be a pirate fantasy game or an online game with multiplayer. You got to clearly define what we were making, because that's going to determine which I recommend. But if I were saying that this is hypothetically going to be a narrative focused game, I would actually start a little bit slower, and I would require the player to grind up a little bit before they earn the right to pirate a full ship like this. Pretty early on in this game, you get access to the pirate ship, and the reason why I would slow that progression down and start you on a smaller ship and work your way up is simply because once you get the pirate ship in that instance, it will feel much more rewarding and you'll be much more proud to drive it around. I mean, most games that have really advanced transportation or advanced mechanics will keep those things further away from the player and won't just open it up freely to them up front. You have to earn it. Even in an upcoming game like Starfield, for example, they've said that the ship customization, which they showed off back during what would have been E3, they've said that that system is very late in the game. That's an end game system for you to customize your ship. When you're actually playing through the main story and for the first few dozens of hours, you're not actually going to be doing that. You're going to be spending much more time completing various quests with starter ships and things like that. You have to earn the right to have your own customized ship. Some people might say, no, I'm playing a video game about pirates. I want to be a pirate. I want to sail pirate ships and have a good time doing that. I don't want to have to grind for it or work through the story to earn that right. And that's why I think like you could have a sandbox mode and get away with it that way and be fine. But I think if you're looking for real satisfaction with players, make them earn the things that are most interesting or exciting in the game, not gated behind paywalls or anything like that, but understand that this is something that is a big deal for the game's character, and it should be a big deal for the player as well. Call me crazy, I just don't buy the stereotype that gamers have to have everything right now up front, that everything has to be super easy. I just don't buy that. I think gamers are a lot more mature and a lot more intelligent than a lot of these big AAA game studios make them out to be. So I think they could manage to spend some time working through the game's narrative to earn the right as the character to pirate a ship than getting it right up front. That's at least my humble opinion. The other thing I would do is embrace an M rating. I think holding this back to a T for teen rating really limited what they could do narratively, because love it or hate it, pirates, not great people. The age in which these guys were operating was not a super, let's just say, progressive time, and they didn't treat people super well. I think you need to showcase that world in a realistic and grounded way. And I think players will respect that setting a lot more. I think they'll appreciate it. They'll understand it. And so I would personally just embrace the M rating. I know it's not as simple as that, but I would go for heavier gore. I would go for a much more grounded and gritty story that might be tough to look at and endure at times. But I think players will understand that that's the life that these characters lived in this world. And while it might not be easy to look at, it's part of the reality for these characters. So I would just lean into that M rating. Thirdly, I would be really interested to see how a game like a pirate game would respond to a system that is tied up in morality and the character's choices related to pirating versus pursuing more noble trade routes and things like that. It's actually a mechanic that was being discussed for use in the Pirates of the Caribbean game that never actually saw the light of day. If you're interested in seeing a big video about that, make sure to subscribe. We have been working on one where we do kind of a deep dive into that game that never ended up releasing, even though it was almost done when they canceled it, which is just heartbreaking. But in that game, they had the idea that you could choose basically to play as somebody more noble or just embrace the pirate fantasy and play as a terrible monster. And depending on which you chose, you would see all sorts of rippling repercussions based on those decisions as time went by, affecting the main story and then also potentially even affecting how characters and NPCs treated you at port, all sorts of really cool stuff like that. For example, you could have missions or even dynamic encounters like taking on those ships right there. And if you take them down and then you take their crew as prisoners to work on your ship, just like Davy Jones would have done, they can perhaps earn the right through indentured servitude that's not voluntary and force them to work on your ship to earn the right for their freedom. Or maybe you just execute them all right up front. Or maybe you do something horrible for your own pirate entertainment, like tying them to the bow of the ship and letting the water just spray them incessantly. Like, there's all sorts of stuff you could do where maybe that provides a morale boost to your crew, but it also affects how everybody else in this world looks at you as a captain. And so maybe that raises the wanted rank by default. So now you have to be much more cautious when you go to ports. Maybe they have shop owners that will charge you more for items because they risk getting in trouble for doing business with you. All sorts of really cool mechanics could come from something as simple as tasking the player with making decisions on their reputation. And I would make this pretty hardcore, to be clear. I don't think you should give the player a way out of this right up front. One of my frustrations with Assassin's Creed, and even with something like Grand Theft Auto to a certain extent, and that's that these games offer you a get out of jail free card almost literally, where if you get in trouble, you can just go and pay down your bounty, or you can go and just hide away for a minute or two and then you're just totally fine. And I think that that kind of spoils the very point of racking up that reputation. Like, if you go to the trouble of instilling an idea within the player that their actions have consequences, but then you give them a way out of the consequences right up front, to me, it's not a shock at all that players never take that world super seriously. And in some contexts, you know, that's okay. Not every game is trying to be taken super seriously. Not every game world wants to be super grounded and gritty. But I think for something like a pirate game, which frankly is a pretty dark and serious setting, I think you could really stand to have a more grounded world where players are not let out of jail that easy, where they can't get out of terrible decisions they've made that easy, and where they might have to suffer the consequences for mistakes that they've made. It certainly is a somewhat controversial take, but my opinion, and feel free to agree or disagree in the comment section, is that games that have consequence often are more fulfilling and will stick with you a lot longer. I think that's why people connect so much with games like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, because they have high expectations of the players, and when the players raise to that bar, they feel accomplished because they achieved something. But when a game comes along and just holds your hand, gives you challenges and pushes you, but then gives you a get out of jail free card immediately that just lets you out of all trouble with a couple of in-game coins, to me, it's no shock at all that players just kind of check out and are approaching it in a very mindless way. But like I said, all of this really shifts and changes depending on what kind of game you're trying to make. If you're trying to make a more family-friendly pirate game like Black Flag was trying to be, then frankly, doing something really grounded, having a lot of consequence, embracing the M rating, all of that doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore. Rather, you would end up making a game much more like this, which is a Disney version of pirate history. A version of pirate history where there's not a lot of stakes, where like the pirates are bad guys, yeah, but it's more Robin Hood-esque, where they're robbing from the rich and then keeping it to themselves, but they're poor, so it's okay. You know, it's that kind of underdog thing that they really focus on in these more family-friendly pirate games. But I would like to see something that shows what it was really like. In fact, if you want to read up on the golden age of piracy, I encourage you to read The Republic of Pirates. It's on Amazon Kindle. It's awesome. You can read it on your phone or tablet, or just buy the book like a normal person, I suppose. But it's awesome, and it will give you a new glimpse and insight into how the world of pirates actually operated. And it's both more noble than you might have thought, and it's also a lot less noble at the same time. Like, it's much more extreme. There were a lot of horrible people that did terrible things, but there were also a lot of pirates that were just frankly privateers that got screwed over by big companies and barons of trading, and they just decided to take matters into their own hand, and they only went after insured ships and things like that. It's just fascinating. So go check that book out if you want to know more. It's a good read. But you know what? All told, I freaking love Black Flag. I think the game is really, really special. And after going back to it for this video, I can't help but feel as though Ubisoft kind of screwed up by just sitting on this thing for a decade. Yes, they were trying to do something with Skull and Bones, but clearly it wasn't that high of a priority for them because it's never seen the light of day. If it was something like an Assassin's Creed game, I'm sure it would have been out a decade ago. So it's really, really frustrating that they showed that a pirate game that's like linear, but also open world and narrative, they showed how that formula works. And the fact that people like me are still talking about it a decade later, and people like you are still watching content about it, that shows that these types of games are desired. People like you and me want more of this. And frankly, I'm shocked that we haven't gotten more pirate games in the last handful of years, even from like AA studios. It seems to be one of the most bizarre, like, blind spots in the entire industry. Everybody's trying to make extraction shooters nowadays, but nobody's going for the layup that is a decent semi-open world, even pirate game. That's all a lot of us want. And I think that it would sell millions and millions of copies. It would be the talk of the town. People would love it. I'm just baffled we haven't seen it yet. But you know what I'm also baffled by? All of you wonderful people that watch these videos, that like them, and that subscribe. You guys are champions in my book, and I love you dearly. Thank you for making my dreams a reality, allowing me to do this for a living. Never think I take it for granted. I really don't. You make it so I can support my wife, my 2 children, and my cats that are very naughty. They just tore up our brand new like leather love seat. It's like pleather, but it looks like leather. It's really, really frustrating. Like, I love my cats, but they tore up the back of the chair overnight one day just because they, I guess, wanted to mark their territory, and I don't know how to fix it. So if you know how to fix a pleather chair that has cat scratches in it, let me know in the comments, or come to our Discord and let me know in our Discord, and you will be my favorite person, and I'll shout you out and like send you a free game or something. I don't know if you can help me fix that so that my wife doesn't like make me get rid of the cats. I would appreciate it. I'm just kidding. She's not going to make me get rid of the cats, but they're very naughty. They're very naughty cats. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you want to see me revisit another game, let me know down in the comment section below. And also let me know in the comment section how you would tweak the Black Flag formula to fit better with your expectations, or what kind of game you'd like to see nowadays. I'm always interested in hearing your game design ideas, because a lot of you guys are way, way, way smarter than I am. And so I would love to hear your thoughts. But with that, I'm out. Thanks for watching. I love you all. See you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.